And now we take you to Honolulu.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, NBC. Hello, NBC. This is KTU in Honolulu, Hawaii. I am speaking from the roof of the Advertiser Publishing Company building. We have witnessed this morning the distant view, the battle off Pearl Harbor, and a severe bombing of Pearl Harbor by enemy planes, undoubtedly Japanese. The city of Honolulu has also been attacked.
I believe that I interpret the will of the Congress and of the people when I assert hostilities exist. Our territory and our interests are in grave danger. With confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God.
Executive Order 9066 was the result of the political proselytizing of General DeWitt, who was the leader of the U.S. Army on the West Coast. He basically made a case to President Roosevelt that he couldn't guarantee the safety of the West Coast against Japanese invasion if Japanese people were allowed to remain in society. And so 9066 was promulgated and developed in order to establish the War Relocation Authority, which basically ran the internment camps until 1946. The other thing too is that, and this is probably, to me, on a spiritual level, is the most significant, they were not allowed to be Japanese anymore. They weren't allowed to have any icons of their faith. They weren't allowed to be Buddhist or Shinto, which are the national religions of Japan. Those symbols were taken away from them. They weren't allowed to sing Japanese songs. They weren't allowed to dance Japanese dances. They were just to be there, which from a societal point of view is the nearest thing to torture that they probably came. Mr. Togioka was sent there as one of the camps, and we looked up his records, and sure enough, he had first gone to Manzanar in California, which is in the high desert. Then he was sent to Topaz in Utah, and then finally ended up at White Mountain, which is in Wyoming. And each of his sons visited him in one of those camps. The volunteering of Japanese soldiers, many of whom had been in local military units before the war, petitioned to join. And the unit from Hawaii, which was the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, had the highest award level of any unit in combat during World War II. They also had one of the highest rate of casualties during the war. But on an emotional level, many of the people who were in the camps, as my wife has attested to, came back with a severe sense of shame. They were men and women of honor, and they were not treated honorably.
Yes, my dad, he's the eldest of the 2 sons, and then his 2 brothers. All 3 went separately as they were processed into the military. And part of the reason was to, I guess, to prove that there was no harboring of any allegiance to Japan, and also it was a means to see their dad at many concentration camps that he was sent to. Because it was only my grandfather and then my father and his brothers that had been away during the wartime, the rest of the family tended to work in the family store, grocery store. And so there was not visibly much adjusting back, looking for work or anything of that sort, because there was already work waiting for them when they returned. I know for sure my father was in France for a while, but mainly in Italy.
One of the bases for reparations was the fact that the incarceration was effectively illegal. You mentioned, as an example, the question of what amounts to sabotage or spying. There was no instance ever recorded of a Japanese American actually spying or conducting espionage on behalf of, or sabotage on behalf of the Japanese government. But part of reparations, I would imagine, were the fact that 9066 was essentially an illegal act, and in fact was recognized as such by several Supreme Court justices, both during the war and after the war as well.
That was one of my hopes that I was in the process of making this, was to hopefully get people to think about their own families, because there's a lot of unsaid things between family members that I think are important to know, like your roots, and at a certain point a lot of old family members will die, and you'll lose that information and that history, because maybe like your parents don't know anything about how your original family came here, and you just lose all of that history.
Don't